online panel discussion. Today, our Startup Leaders Club is devoted to the business model pivot in the era of pandemic, Series 6. And with our inspirational leaders of innovation and drivers of change, we'll discuss disrupting industries, creating new business models, and finding new opportunities in crisis. My name is Nadia Nistirova. I'm an independent director of the board of the National Alternative Investment Management Association and advisor to a number of GPs in private equity, venture capital, and hedge funds. And my co-moderator today is Giampaolo Parigi, venture capitalist, chairman of a single family office. And we'll now make a brief round of introductions of our panel discussion leaders. Ilyas, could you please introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Ilyas Beshimov. I'm co-founder of an AI startup in Silicon Valley called Silential AI. And we're applying AI and machine learning to the space of recruitment.
Thank you. And Eduardo Rivara, could you also join us?
Hi, Nadia. I am Eduardo Rivara from FaceNote here in Buenos Aires right now. And we provide biometric solutions to offer frictionless personalization to retailers by using face recognition to recognize customers at physical locations, enabling from rewarding you by entering a store or being able to pay for your coffee just with your face.
Thank you, Eduardo. And Sam, could you also introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everybody. Sam Caiucci. I'm the founder of OneHuddle. We are a US-based tech startup that turns workforce training into mobile games. Thank
you, Sam. And Leon? Leon, you're muted.
My name is Leon Eisen. I'm founder and CEO at a medical device company called Occiton Medical. And what we're doing there is using medical wearables, continuous monitoring, and personalized data analytics to help patients with severe chronic conditions to live a healthier life.
Thank you, Leon. And Ilkar?
Hi, my name is Ilkar. I am the CEO of Billionaire.com. We are basically a subsidiary of a global gambling and lottery partner. We are providing Turkish customers with online sports betting and lottery solutions.
Thank you, Ilkar. And Jorge?
Hi, I'm Jorge Schnura. Pleased to meet you all. I'm the VP strategy at Overactive Media. Overactive Media is one of the world's largest esports organization. We're a holding company of diversity of esports and gaming entertainment businesses, ranging from franchise teams, leagues, an event production business, a media production company, and other verticals that we continuously expand to.
Thank you, Jorge. And Joran?
Hi, I'm Joran de Wachter, based in Brussels, and I'm CEO of Seats.io. We are a scale-up that provides technology to the event sector, more specifically the ability to show seating plans and allow ticket buyers to pick their seat when they buy a ticket for an event.
Thank you, Joran. And Raju?
Hello, everyone. I'm Raju Chavan, founder and president and CEO of Cross Industry Solutions group here in Washington, D.C. area. Predominantly, we are involved in across various industries that includes the healthcare, construction, engineering, technology sector. So our main goal here is to work with mostly the disaster solutions, dealing with like epidemic, what is we are facing today, what happened during 9/11, and what is next is waiting for us. So we work very strategically to work with the government and in the commercial sector to get ready for those solutions. So now with this epidemic, we know that when the challenge what everyone is facing, that how everyone get tested, very quickly within 5 minutes. So there are solutions which we built, and we are working with the government here, predominantly with HHS and mostly other, research institutes in the United States and around the globe. So we'll share more about what are the solutions are and what are the next thing is waiting for us, similar to this epidemic, what we face today.
Thank you, Raju. So we have serial entrepreneurs from different parts of the world today joining our conversation, and Giampaolo Parigi representing the investor side. Gianpaolo, could you also introduce yourself?
Yes, hello everyone. Gianpaolo Parigi here, venture capitalist, chairman of a single family office, over 30 years as an investor and advisor in the technology space, both in the US, Europe, Asia, and very keen to be here today and listening to all your good comments and qualified opinions. So without further ado, I think I would start the questions. And Leon, the first question is for you, if you please. We met earlier when COVID started, and what is the your view 3 months into this? Do you see any necessity of changing the way you're marketing your products and services? Do you have to trim your game? Can you please tell us, what's happening on a day-by-day basis, compared to when we first met? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Very good question. Actually, all these 3 months made a huge impact on direction of our company, on a message we deliver to customers and users, and also environment changing. So we have to keep connected to environment and have to win competition. We have to change ourselves all the time. And the most important impact is how we start to understand healthcare, change in approach to healthcare. For example, we target high-risk chronic disease patients with very severe conditions. And before COVID, nobody did pay attention on this. So all approach to to healthcare was approach to some average patient. So if patient is not in ICU now, it's average patient, independent if this patient in the initial stage of chronic disease or in end life of stage. Same devices, just fingertip, episodic measurements, so once a day measurements, same telemedicine approach, everything is same. So what COVID revealed, that it should be totally separated. All approaches, devices, care models, therapeutics, that delivers, whether this delivers to different spectrum of chronic disease patients. And this is very important impact. And what we learned, that it was strange that people didn't think about it, but chronic disease patients with severe conditions, they consume 80% of all our time and money. And these patients, just about 10–15% of all these patients that consume all our money and time. It's amazing. In the United States, more than $3 trillion healthcare spending, and 90% goes to chronic patients. And from this 90%, 80% is consumed by chronic disease, severe ill patients. And we didn't do anything to help these patients and to reduce these costs. And now people start to understand that it's important to develop technology, develop processes, business processes, develop healthcare processes, specifically to target these patients and dramatically reduce the cost. We are talking about nursing homes. We work with some nursing homes, know any technology and structure that enables to work with them, to manage these patients during such thing like COVID. They wasn't ready because it wasn't technology, wasn't structure in place, nothing. Now people start change something.
Thank you, Leon. And Ilias, do you think you need to change your fundraising strategies as the result of how the situation is evolving over the last quarter?
So fundraising strategy-wise it's not so much changes our strategy, but opens up to new opportunities, right? What we are seeing happening in Silicon Valley is and as everybody knows, like what's been happening in the past several years is that funds have been more and more going for bigger deals, bigger rounds. So a lot of the funds are now very much committed to a lot of their capital, which they would have allocated towards investing in new deals and new companies in helping their existing portfolio companies that have a high bets on, helps them survive. Right? So it's really is allocated towards sustaining their biggest bets right now. So I think it creates an opportunity where, since if I have to pitch and talk to financial executive venture capitalists, whether I'm talking to somebody on Zoom who sits a mile away in Menlo Park or talking to somebody in London, it doesn't matter. Right? As long as it's virtual pitching, so that it does make startups open to infusion of capital outside of Silicon Valley into where normally Silicon Valley startups have gone to up and down the Sand Hill Road for investments. Now they're open to anywhere in the world because it doesn't matter who they're pitching to. So it's not so much change of strategy, but it creates openness in terms of other sources of investment.
Thank you, Ilias. Nadia?
Yeah, thank you, Ilias. And Ilkar, would you share how was the situation evolving in your segment? And was there any change from the beginning of the COVID-19 and your current situation?
Okay, thank you. So actually, our business is 100% dependent on live games. So we are only allowed to run sports betting online when you have Bundesliga live, or when you have Serie A live, and or NBA, EuroLeague, all the thing. And the world was basically set that will always continue. So once we ran into the COVID period, in mid-March, 90% of the major leagues are suspended. So basically, our business went down 90% because basically there's nothing left. So that has been a great learning for many of us. Was basically you shouldn't postpone things thinking that life will always be the same. So in very short period of time, we see a lot of creativity, table tennis coming in, MMA coming in, esports coming in, virtual gaming coming in. So basically, these were like years of discussions in our sports industry, but industry was basically limited to conventional sports games. So once it went down, in very short period of time, we see e-instant products came into the picture. Esports businesses came in, and basically in a 4 or 5 weeks time, going from 100 to 10, we went back to 70 again. So the learning for us was basically don't wait till things go wrong. So if there is an idea of adding new verticals in an industry, in our case, that showed us that if life normal stocks, you need to have virtual solutions. So it was a great learning. And also, it was a kind of domino impact. Before COVID, esports investments were struggling to create revenue streams because basically the investment is either coming from live streaming revenue stream or you basically get a certain commission based on this betting. So our learning was, enlarge your scope and make a good balance. Like we were in the past talking about, you need to have a certain amount of import and export balance so that whatever happens, fluctuation of currency, either this and that, you need to have a balance. Our learning in our industry that you need to have a virtual solutions in your hand. So, and we see that, without major leagues restarted, basically our industry started to recover. This has been a quite important learning for sports media, sports live streaming. And I think in the future, there is also more expert on esports side. I am expecting virtual gaming, esports, or any other type of industries around this will create new revenue streams, and conventional sports online will shift quickly. So we will not be dependent on NBA or EuroLeague, because we have seen they are cancelled or suspended in one day. And I think this can be an example for many industries. So I am a big believer of, we shouldn't think it's 1 or 0. We shouldn't think it's either people or robots, either retail or online. We need to have always, multiple solutions in hand, so that sustainability of your business is around. So basically, this is, in a very short period of time, our learning in sports online, moving to virtual gaming.
Thank you, Ilkar. You mentioned quite a good topic to address for all of us about innovation and collaboration in this era of pandemic. Sam, could you comment how was that situation evolving in your segment, and how do you keep up with the spirit of innovation during this remote work period?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's some great points being made already. The thing we've noticed, we're a talent management workforce solution. Here in the U.S., when COVID-19 happened, I think the majority of companies were hit with a wake-up call. We've talked about future of work. We've talked about automation. We've talked about how to use technology in so many ways in society, in our communities, in our businesses. But innovation at work, when it comes to talent management, workforce training, has been way behind the ball. A stat here that we reference often is less than 1% of corporate learning and training is even available on a mobile device for workers. So when I tell you, in January, I was talking to US retailers who would tell me, we would love to use a product for training that's mobile, but we're concerned about the legal risks of our employees using their personal devices outside of work. That changed dramatically in March. Companies started to realize that we have to meet employees where they are with the same intent that we try to meet customers where they are. So I think that future of work is, we have seen changes that we thought were 5 years away happen in a matter of weeks. Companies have started to try to accelerate. Some are winning, some are losing at it. But I think that the one thing, for us that we think is an important learning is companies have to invest in technology that are true systems that help them more nimbly respond as the world changes. And companies do this in certain areas of their business well, but when it comes to the people that drive businesses, specifically in retail or frontline labor, you have companies today that are completely disconnected from the workers that drive their business. And it's not about physical distance. It's about companies that haven't invested in mobile tools, haven't invested in technology under the concern for legal regulations or legal risks. So we're seeing a pretty big acceleration there from certain types of businesses, specifically, kind of I would say the early adopters. There's a certain type of enterprise that are consistently early adopters and early majority companies. We're seeing a lot of those leap forward. But I think in the months ahead, the big concern is going to be, as everybody restarts and comes back to work, how many have taken COVID-19? I'm in the New York area. Businesses are opening every day. How many have taken this pandemic seriously and are going to use this moment to invest in infrastructure, so if we have a second wave, they are ready? I'm not so certain that we're doing as great a job as we can be here specifically, but I know that the companies that win are going to be the ones that are using this moment to double down and invest to be prepared.
Sam, I think you are raising a very good point here. We've been talking often about what you just said on these panels before. And we do believe that in the future, right now, there won't be any company that is not going to be a technology company in some way, shape, or form. And we totally agree that there's a lot of companies that are missing the boat. They had a nice opportunity to rethink and re-engineer, and they have yet to show us that they did it. And this is, as investors, what we keep seeing. Raju, what would you like to add to what Sam just said regarding companies needing to become technology companies?
Sure. Sam, you're absolutely right. I think the challenge is what I think industry has, and I think they learn hard way. And this is what we are doing for many decades, telling the customers that there is a cultural shift is required. Like Sam, you said that, yes, companies have policies and processes saying that, no, we cannot do this one because our policy doesn't allow us that. But then they learn hard way that, yes, you need to have this training on the mobile device. So this cultural shift is very important. And this is what we are training to our customers, saying that virtual reality is going to, you will learn hard way. And here we are, after almost 10 years. Same thing with 9/11, we were telling the government that we need to change the way our airport security is. And they didn't listen to that one. And they learned in 9/11, that everybody need to be, if you do not have the ticket, there is no need for you to come inside the gate or all the way to the plane to basically take your relatives, So in this epidemic, Sam, and I think, the one thing is very important for us to learn, and also our customers, that we need to change the way we were doing the business. Most of them, as you mentioned, that, they missed the boat. They learned hard way that, as, Aker, you mentioned that 90% of your business got affected because you thought that there's no way the major league is going to stop. Nobody even thought about it in this epidemic that more than 185 countries need to stop the way they're, completely came to zero to their knees. So everything is dead stop. So here one important thing is what we need to learn and understand, also our customer, that disaster doesn't come and tell you, I'm going to be coming there tomorrow morning, just get ready. It just comes and strikes you. So you have to have a kind of a backup plan, a disaster recovery, that not single point of failure, saying that what you thought about it. And this is what we do. We are not bet our future on one industry. Let's say the automobile industry goes down, we are in a construction. If construction goes down, we are in telecom, we are healthcare. So that's what we are producing, all this solution across various industries. One of the big challenges going forward, when you're talking about online training, whether you're talking about online gaming, another biggest challenge, what is going to happen here, and you already had witness about hacking, what is happening. The important data is getting stolen by the hackers. So this is no new news. And like this, an epidemic, there are a lot of research is going on. These doctors, these institutes are spending, years and years of their research, and all the research data is getting stolen. So that is another challenge we need to get ready for, that what solution we have to make sure that our data is protected, the privacy is protected. And even if, let's say, that data gets stolen, what hackers will do with that data? If you can make that data useless, even if that gets stolen, you don't have to worry about it. And these are the things I think we need to learn, going forward.
Thank you, Raju. So you've addressed a number of core opportunities and challenges in front of many industries. And Jorge, would you share what challenges and opportunities you have in your segment?
Yeah, so there's a couple challenges, right? On one hand, most of our activity has always, happened online, and it's where we have most of our audience. And we were lucky enough that we have been able to continue that flawlessly, unlike traditional sports, without hiccups. But then on the other hand, we did have most of our finals of the leagues we participate in, the finals, the semifinals, and the quarterfinals are normally played in arenas or stadiums across the world, right? And those are events that were canceled, right? So the biggest challenge here is to find make goods for the partners or sponsors that we were going to activate in those in those events. But due to the fact of other sports not taking place and other forms of entertainment not being possible, the audiences of esports have grown enough for that alone to be already a very good make good. And since most of our activity is digital, for us it's actually quite easy to pivot in a situation like this and look for other ways to activate with our partners, giving them the same exposure or even more through digital media, right? So we have been actually lucky enough that we have been affected in a good way. Also, the fact that traditional sports are not taking place has moved a lot of the initiatives from brands to esports. And we've had to figure out, ways of how to service all those brands and give them the type of exposure they were having in other medias of entertainment.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Eduardo, I have a question for you. You are dealing with your company with important multinationals. Are you experiencing any sort of delays or, let's say, change of attitude from the multinationals part as a result of what we're going through?
I mean, yes. I mean, we work in the facial recognition industry, and we are in the middle of I would call it a roller coaster. So on one hand, we have, of course, suffered very bad news, and we are in the middle of a big pause on contracts with retailers. And on the other hand, we have fantastic news on all the R&D, research and development things that we have been doing and investing heavily for the past year, namely for facial payments. So I would say that the big corporations that have been delayed are the retailers that they were already struggling. So yes, of course, we were expecting that bad news. Things were going down in retail slowly, and this just accelerated stuff. And I would agree with Sam here that all that we have been doing regarding putting face recognition on the street, making you able to pay with your face, for example, that has jumped forward around 18 months. So to give you an example, for the past 4,000 years, we have been paying for stuff with things. You pay with coins, you pay with a credit card, you pay with a phone. And suddenly, we don't want to touch stuff anymore. So what's happening here is that whenever you walk into an Uber, you walk down and you have already paid and you don't need to touch nothing. You get into an Airbnb, you walk out, and the payment is invisible. So there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to enter a Starbucks, get your coffee, and walk out without touching anything. And one thing that is happening for me, especially, I go to the supermarket and I don't want to touch even my own phone. I just want to walk there. So even after the pandemic, what the big corporations are seeing, especially the banks, is that this trend is going to stay. So whenever you try something that is frictionless, that you don't need to touch stuff, you don't need to carry stuff with you, that trend will stay. So to answer your question, I would say we have been contacted by very big corporations, especially regarding that industry. So we started working 2 weeks ago with a huge bank in Brazil. We are already on an ongoing project with a bank in Argentina for facial payments, and we have been contacted by Visa as well. So for us, I would say it's fantastic news because all our plans for the next 18 months had been compressed over the past 2 months. So we are working as hell. Our R&D development now has the 90% of our attention. And of course, we will keep sustaining our retail business, but we can see a fantastic trend. It's almost a 3 trillion market opportunity for the evolution of payments. So for us, it's been fantastic for the past month. I mean, a hell of a lot of work.
Thank you, Eduardo. So, and Joran, you also have a great title of your position in Seeds.io. So you're Chief Opportunity Officer. So what opportunities have you faced during this COVID-19 period?
Well, we see 2 things happening, and they're both related to, I think, the way people start to change their behavior as a result of the pandemic. So in terms of what we see at live events, of course, is that they have pretty much stopped happening, and ticketing and is down by 95% for a lot of events. But we see that people, when they will go back, and we start to see the first signs of events starting to come back and people starting to go back into organizing them and selling tickets for them, is that people will want to have the reassurance that they can keep the right distance from other people when they go to events. So I concur with what Eduardo said, in the sense that behavior will change and people will actually demand more distance and different ways of interacting with each other. Being able to show that when you organize an event, being able to show how that is complied with or how much distance there is between people, is for us a major opportunity. I think our business, if things continue the way they are, 2021 will be a fantastic year. So that's, I think, and I think there will be changes in the way people behave on a daily basis that will have other ramifications in other industries. And I think it's really important to start to think about how people will behave differently moving forward, even if there is a vaccine, which will still take between 6 and 12 months before it's really rolled out across the globe. And in the way that affects people do things. The second observation is linked to that in terms of how people behave when they work from distance, which again, I concur with some of the earlier comments that were made, is that the way we work will change. What we have seen is that people have been forced to work from home, and that, to their great surprise, a lot of businesses have found that this works really well. One of the things that I think says that about, like, for example, our product development, we've always done that. We've always worked with product development from people across the globe, working virtually together, whether they were based in China or in Argentina or in Los Angeles, it didn't matter. But what I see now is that people no longer go to the office, or no longer need to go to the office, or a lot less. And this has an impact on the way workforces are managed, in the sense that people have had a duty to trust their teams a lot more, so that they would do their work when there's nobody supervising them across their shoulder. And I think that teams that work together based on trust are much more productive than teams that work together based on the classical authoritarian approach, where people would control what other people would do much more. And I think that is a very positive change that can come out of this, where teams can work virtually, globally together, based on much more on trust and recognition, and a lot less on job titles, middle management, et cetera, et cetera. I think there is a small risk, as people start to go back into the office, that middle management will want to reassert its position by having as many useless meetings as possible. But I think we've seen with COVID that things can be different, and that people who want to contribute a lot of value will insist that that they should be left alone doing their job properly, rather than being put together in a room with people for no reason or for no good reason. And I think that's really interesting, because both of those aspects are about human behavior. And I think that everything that everybody does relates to human behavior. And if we don't take changes of human behavior into consideration, then I think we're at risk of missing out in important trends that our business will need and that society will need.
Thank you, Joran. And Ilias, so how do you keep your team innovative and efficient during this period and post-COVID as well?
So for us, it has been an interesting transition, because we did not start as a remote company. We were mostly concentrated in Silicon Valley, and we also had development of a development office in China. So we're going to have two big centers that we constantly collaborated together. Now, transition to fully remote has been interesting in that now between two of us collaborating, like everybody had to do it for all the interactions. And the biggest change that we had to learn is not how to keep operations going, but how to continue being innovative, like, in the face of now transitioning to fully remote interactions. And that's really was through the process of introducing more structured, from discussions to brainstorm sessions in virtual settings. Like many companies, of course, Zoom is in Hangouts and Skype is proliferation of this tool is a huge blessing, when making transitions, to try to stay together with the team. And I think what's one thing we're trying to really figure out is that there are ways to do formal sessions to innovate in discussions. That's what I think a lot of people are experiencing in. One area where a lot of teams who are transitioning from on-site, physical present work to now fully remote, is how to transition the points of innovation that are serendipitous, unstructured. Right? As we all know, big part of many companies, I'm sure happening in your companies as well, is big part of innovation is like, hey, you're meeting somebody by the coffee machine. He's like, hey, can we talk something over? Or you walk over to your coworker's desk and say, hey, I have an idea. Can I quickly run it by you? Right? When you transition fully remote, those modes of innovation discussion become quite difficult. And I think the standard structures of just pinging somebody on Slack are insufficient to be able to not lose those innovative touch points. So for us, it has been really trying to make sure that people are present when they're fully remotely. People are proactively staying in communication, chatting with each other. When they wanted to talk, it's not just, hey, let me send you a Slack message and we're going to go back and forth. But hey, can we actually get on a phone call right now? So trying to really be as much as possible for informal, serendipitous, spontaneous starting phone calls is one of the ways we're trying to continue staying innovative and open ourselves to some serendipitous discoveries.
Thank you very much. And Sam, going back to those very important points that you all gentlemen are raising today, I think there's a great deal of advice packed in your comments today. Very beautiful, also for our viewers and even for ourselves as moderators. But Sam, I have a question. Everybody's speaking about opportunity, and not on this panel, but in general around, you hear all entrepreneurs, maybe, I don't know if that is self-reliance or self-conviction or auto-hypnosis, but anyway, they're trying to talk about living and seizing the opportunity. But we need to go to the next level, I think. As investors, we want to see how does opportunity materialize in whatever the company is doing. And I can offer an example. I'd be happy to hear your comments on this. Many entrepreneurs, particularly startups, are complaining their runway becoming very short. And I just offered, as a metaphor, a piece of advice. I say, well, maybe you shouldn't produce aircraft. Maybe you should manufacture choppers or vertical takeoff aircrafts if your runway is getting too short. What I'm saying, we need to apply creativity, ingenuity to what we're doing, but really also have the courage, the nerve to go through the eye of the needle and do something to seize the opportunity. Otherwise, it just remain lip service paid to whatever else everybody said. What do you think, Sam, about it?
Yeah, super timely, Gianpaolo. We closed our Series A round in December. So, I don't care what anybody says. Luck is timing and luck are very important, very important. But we, so we were lucky enough to be in a position where we had capital going into the COVID situation. But I would say two things. One, I think every company right now can learn from the core traits and habits of a great startup, the way that they operate early, and specifically their perspective on speed and learning and innovating and testing. And I think there's definitely the startup community I talk to that, they're running out of capital. Runway is a concern. They're and for some of them, like, their business is directly impacted by this in a way that I don't know if they will survive. But that group that's sort of running out of capital, and there is a group that is in a comfortable position. They feel like they have runway. They've done their forecasting and they can get to end of 2021. What I've done for my business, we did a few things. First, we immediately shifted our focus away from the things that we knew would probably, we knew we didn't know enough about right now. Retail and restaurants, we sell into those categories. We immediately stopped. We just said, that's probably not someplace we should dedicate a lot of our resources right now. So we stopped the things that were at high risk in this moment. The other thing we did is we chose to invest in the things that we had to do anyway. The things that, as a founder, I wasn't sure that I always thought I was going to be able to implement my inbound strategy or implement a certain marketing, initiative or invest in a certain part of our product roadmap. But under this situation, we were able to focus on some of the things that build the business right now, knowing that our sales pipeline had stalled in many ways. So I think that the way I would interpret the scenario you're saying is, in this moment, companies got to learn that this is an opportunity to invest structurally in the things that they're going to need for the long haul. Cut the higher risk initiatives as a founder that you like to try, and you've been trying to bet on. But at the same time, like, time box some of your work and fail quickly and continue to iterate. All of those have been fundamentals of what we've been doing. And we say that the theme we have at One Huddle right now is don't pause. Like, just don't pause. A lot of companies are pausing right now. They're choosing not to fight. They're choosing to freeze. And this is a moment of rapid growth for certain types of business models. And, the last thing I'll say on this point is, this is where leadership comes into play. Ilyas made a point earlier, we need strong coaching and strong leadership more than ever today. And I'm sure all of us can relate to some companies that when COVID hit, we were really let down by the way they reacted. Strong leaders are exposing themselves right now. And the only way to get the most out of your people, whether you're working together or working from home or working afar, is you gotta be able to keep people together and connected. I don't care if it's over Zoom or over a conference call. So strong leadership is more important and more critical to success than ever.
Thank you. And Ilyas, you wanted to add a comment on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Sam is bringing up a good point, is that, hey, we can choose and sit back and try to wait it out and not know what's going to happen, or we try to be proactive in terms of dealing with uncertainty. And the way what Silentio does is we provide our platform to help tech companies, and Gianpaolo, you mentioned before, like, eventually every company is going to be a tech company at some point. Is you need to hire talent, you need to hire engineers, and that's what we help companies. And of course, when the COVID happened, part of our business got affected, is that companies stopped or paused hiring. And when we're asking them, interest, like, is your business getting affected? Are you not hiring anymore because COVID has an impact on your revenues? And almost universally, that's like, no, we're pausing hiring because we don't know what's going to happen. It's uncertainty. Well, the interesting thing, what some of the more innovative companies are doing, is that during this time, they either not pausing hiring because it's a great opportunity to scoop a great talent. And as we're seeing in our portfolio of customers, is that COVID is really not affected as much as uncertainty. And when things start slowing back up, the economy, at least especially tech sector, is going to bounce back very fast, bounce back with vengeance. Who are going to be the ones riding this wave? So of course, the ones who are able to have the resources, the ones who have been preparing during this time. And plus, a big part of it is, of course, human capital. Who are you hiring? So one of the interesting approaches we see in companies doing, those who are, either not able to continue hiring, but they're not pausing, is that they're continuing to recruit. And what they do is they are now engaging with talent that they want to hire 6 months, 10 months down the line. The benefit of that, like, if you want to really go for top talent from your competitors, one of the hardest part is to get the talent to engage with you. For one big part of it is that simple human thing, is that, hey, if I am a talent engineer working at a company, I don't have a lot of time to get on a phone call with a different company recruiter in the morning, evenings, and I cannot do it during the day because I'm at work. Well, now that everybody's at home, the top talent is very happy to get the phone call and chat with you. So what some of the companies are doing is that they're proactively reaching out to top talent and say, hey, let's chat right now so that we are going to connect in 6 months. Well, what's going to happen is that when the company starts bouncing back, the companies who are more proactive during this time would have prepared for the comeback, will have positioned themselves in terms of resources and the infrastructure available, and they're going to have the talent, onboarded and execute upon it better than anybody else.
Thank you, Ilyas, for this input on the changes in the practices of human capital management and talent management. And Leon, what were some new business processes which emerged from COVID in your case?
Thank you. Sam raised a very interesting question about, I would like to rephrase it like about business processes. How COVID influenced business processes and what kind of new business processes his company is going to build and master. And this is very important because, for example, in Oxyton, we were fortunate for the last couple of months to acquire totally new type of customers. Why? We chased these customers for a couple of years without success because they have very tough processes to become their vendor. It takes half of a year, maybe a year. I'm talking about hospitals, for example, big medical systems, insurance companies. They have very tough processes to become their vendor. You have to go through many validation stages, and even to release purchasing order, it takes 2-3 months. They use very specific software, crazy software. So for startup, it's a dead valley to get into the business with these companies. But for the last time, it started maybe a couple of months ago. One of the biggest hospital called me in the morning, and they said, look, we're gonna buy your product and deploy it as soon as possible. I said, okay, let's do it. You want an agreement? No, we don't want anything. Just send us quotation. In the evening, we got money. And in a week, we send our product to them and deploy it. So this is amazing. And this is just started. And we had many customers like these who just abandon all other processes. And they just start to change their processes because they need the product immediately. And this has huge impact and accelerate actually the business. And I think somebody who doesn't know that it happens, it's important to use this knowledge, important to use it and ask these customers about acceleration of the processes, because today they can do it.
Thank you, Leon. And Eduardo, you wanted to comment as well?
Yes, I mean, I love the Gianpaolo example about shortening the runway and using vertical takeoff new solutions. So, I mean, one thing that happened to us is we've been approached by a completely new industry for us, namely the hospitality sector. And they raised us an issue that was, how can they solve customers at the hotels? It was a very nice hotel in Mexico. They want their customers to consume something at the pool, for example, drinking something and not needing to sign with a pen. They just wanted to use their face. And this was a fantastic opportunity. And the thing is that I thought, okay, how can we serve this new market, but at the same time motivating my team? And the thing that the technical teams love is challenges. So the big challenge here was, we need to solve this without being able to take a plane, without going there. We need to do it remotely, being a completely service company. And this is a fantastic challenge. So we started working with them in how we can ship them some iPads or they can install them themselves. And now we have a fantastic new process over the last month where we are already deploying this solution in Mexico from Argentina without even needing to take a plane. And this solved our runway issue because we don't need to spend money on flying over there, and also reducing costs for the hotel. And this was, and also raising the spirit of my team, because this was a technical challenge. And I think that this was a very good example of how we can change the operation structure. The key point that I get out of this is that anything that was nice to have for this hotel, we spoke with them last year and they were not interested because it was a nice to have solution. Oh, this would be cool. Now it's a necessity. They need to avoid customers touching stuff. So I think that this is a great example for us. And I've been speaking with my team yesterday of how can we reinvent our processes to shorten the money that we spend and to make it cheaper for these companies that are having also a reduced budget.
Thank you, Eduardo. And Raju, I know you have lots of opportunities to share, over 20 in your portfolio simultaneously in all innovations and of different scale. So what are the key findings you can share?
Sure. I just wanted to go back to what Leon mentioned earlier about the business processes. What we had traditionally seen in this COVID-19 and any kind of a challenges we face in the industry is the rigidity of the businesses. The way they had basically based their business model is so rigidly designed, like in a government industry here, that everybody has to be there in the office in Washington, D.C. by 9 o'clock. Everybody's driving 2 hours there to be there. And they're half dead by the time they reach there, so with the traffic. So same thing, you must be facing in California and in your country, in your city. So what we had seen is this working virtually, that cultural shift need to happen. We implemented that one almost 15 years ago. Nobody in my office, we don't go unless it is absolutely, we had to see the demo, in live demo in a construction or something that physically had to be there. So one of the things is challenge and opportunity, I will say, as Paolo, you mentioned that, if you are making an aircraft and it's not going to work there, so you need to go and maybe make a chopper. So that's what we're going to revisit and see how the innovative way you have built your business, so that way it is flexible, the model is flexible, and you can scale that one across the other industries to support. Like, for example, what you're seeing here is automobile industry. When we found out that we don't make our own, ventilators, so we forced the automobile industry to make those ventilators. So yes, they have the infrastructure that they can do that. And that's one of the, I think, thing is opportunity for every business to go and revisit the way you had basically traditionally doing the business and the infrastructure in which you have invested. So our focus is actually across industry. So when you say across industry, if you are working in the healthcare or in automobile industry, you design your product just to serve that industry. If that industry goes down, you go down with that one. So when you're talking about a horizontal integration or horizontal availability of your product, and I think the great thing is what Rivera, you are doing in a face recognition, that is required for any industry, whether you're talking bioinformatics, you're walking at the airport or wherever, and without touching. So that is a horizontal integration. Doesn't matter which industry you're talking about, So this is the very key thing. And going back to now with this epidemic, is everybody's working from home as we are sitting on this video conference. So now this content, what we are delivering securely, in a timely manner to the people who should get it. You don't want your information to be falling in the wrong hands, And that's another challenge, I think, Rivera, you must be having that, okay, face recognition, you validate it, but what happened on the backside? You are depending on some other technologies and the network and the hardware, whatever the cloud computers, how you make sure that your information, your software or whatever you build, they say that, hey, I recognize it, but now you hand over the control to somebody else who is controlling your future, saying that, hey, they messed up, So this is a very important thing, an opportunity. You have to see whether you have end-to-end solution which you can control. You have the full control of your solution. If you depend on somebody, then you are going down, And that's what I think is an opportunity. Everybody has to think about innovative way, how I can make secure my business. That doesn't matter what happens, whether it's a natural disaster or man-made disaster, we still need to survive and how we can scale across. And this is the one thing, I think, Nadia, it's very important for everyone to go back and revisit and see what is your business model is. Some of these companies, they thought about it. And again, going back to the leadership, Sam, yes, that started at the top, the leadership, have they thought about what the disaster is and how our model of business is going to be so flexible that we can span across. So yes, from that angle, when you're talking about data security, you're talking about a communication, you're talking about, as a facial recognition or whatever the technology you're developing, we have to make sure that it is horizontally adaptable, acceptable, and easily integrable, with other businesses. And
thank you so much, Raju. Yeah. And Gianpaolo, would you summarize before we have some 5 minutes of our conversation? So would you like to sum up our today's conversation?
Well, I think it's been a great panel, as I say, with a lot of advice and from qualified international entrepreneurs. I have a short question that requires an even shorter answer because we are limited in time, and I would like to hear all of you Coming back to what Sam and Leon said, some companies are like a deer in the headlight, frozen for fears of changing. What would you recommend to these colleagues of ours that are, frozen in their steps? Just a quick snapshot from each one of you. Thank you very much. Starting with Jorge.
So yeah, so I think one of the things that most resonated with me from this conversation, and it's something that I wanted to bring up and emphasize again, is something that Sam said, in that the remark that you said of many companies are just kind of not fighting back, right? And they're basically not giving up, but saying, well, it is how it is. We need to pause. We need to just let this thing go. We need to scale down our operations and such. And one of the things I always take in mind generally when doing business is that the biggest fortunes are made in crisis, in times of crisis, in times of change, right? So this is the perfect time to do the opposite of that, right? This is the perfect time to think of new ways and innovative ways of turning this around and growing.
Thank you, Jorge. And Joran, what are your couple of words to unfreeze if those in the lockup or getting out of the lockup?
Yeah, I think you have to look at what you do and see how you can turn it into an opportunity. So basically look at every aspect of what it is you're doing and then turn it around and look at it from a different angle and see how these changing circumstances allow you to put something out there that responds to a slightly different need or does things slightly differently, building on your strengths and then take it from there. I think it's logical for people to wait, but it's probably not the right thing to do.
Thank you. Your key message, Ilias?
So to me, I would say is also one of the things to think about these days is that if you're able to, in the short term, change your business, find opportunities, absolutely that is the right thing to what you should be focusing on. But however, there is a timeline of this COVID pandemic that we're under. It's going to change. Whether it's going to be a year, 2 years from now, like will be better scale testing, there will be vaccines, things will go back normal. The question becomes, what will be the new normal? On one spectrum, there's a belief that now we're going to be moving towards fully remote world, which I do not believe that's going to be the case because there's too much people are afraid too much of such drastic changes for that to stick. I think what will happen with a lot of workforce that more flexibility in terms of work, in terms of where it means like it's not fully remote roles, but somewhere I can work from home 2-3 days a week. What is that going to produce? So I think it's likely going to reshape the modern urban environments where the city is going to sprawl a lot more significantly. For example, right, if you are working downtown New York, you want to live closer because commute is awful, right? As Raju pointed out, like people in DC are stuck in traffic and that sucks. So is it California, so is it New York. Well, if I have to commute only twice a week, I'm okay braving the commute. So if I'm working downtown New York, maybe I live in Providence. I enjoy a much better lifestyle. And yes, twice a week my commute is hell, but this is the time I'm living a much better lifestyle. Or even deeper into the woods of New York. So what's going to produce with a much more sprawled urban environment, a lot of the services that we're going to consume are not going to be as readily available. The dry cleaners, the storage, the delivery services. So the patterns of our consumer behaviors are going to drastically shift to businesses such as, hey, if normally if I had a storage space and extra space storage, now I'm going to opt in for an on-demand service like Clutter, right? Same as for dry cleaners. So it's like, hey, now that you're shaping your business, try to survive long-term, do it well. But I think mostly think about how will the world change when we arrive at a new normal.
Ilias and Ilkka, your final word?
Actually, what I'm thinking is, each time something happens, we all think about, how can we, to be honest, make money out of this new situation. I think this is also another learning for me, is that we think we need each other more than we think we do. So I think that there should also be more global cooperation to help each other rather than, you know, finding local solutions, being locally rich, saving yourself. I think that should also teach us, will teach us that we need to think more beyond our country, beyond our own company, and we should be more open for more cooperations in order to not to lose again together, instead of how can we win as a person, as a company, as a country. I believe it should also, you know, that should also be in our mind, that it should also be a learning on humanity, let's say. This is my last words.
Thank you so much, Ilkar. So we are running out of time, unfortunately, but we welcome you to join our next Startup Leaders Club. We have the next one tomorrow already. And just in 10 minutes, we start a keynote. You also please join on our program. And also we have road shows, pitch competitions, keynotes, panel discussions, and masterclasses. Please advise any of the formats you would like to add for more of collaboration between serial entrepreneurs and investors. And welcome to our platform. Anytime we are open on our VCTV 24/7. Thank you and good luck in all you do. Thank you. Bye-bye.